Chapter 12, entitled Counsel, takes on the question of the fatal strategy and accident sign as a way for our avatars to consult and counsel us in the world. His example throughout this chapter is the Kabad Copper's Superfund site, which through the leaching of pine tar into the ground has contaminated the local groundwater. While reading the opening pages of this chapter, I merely saw connections between the disaster, its social and historic causes, and the idea of an electronic monument that we discussed earlier in the semester. So before jumping into discussion of the chapter itself, my mind first wanted to consider what an electronic monument would look like for the site. I'm not exactly sure how an electronic monument might be established for the Superfund, but I would consider following a similar structure as the Vietnam Memorial example, where there was a constant list of automobile deaths being printed. While this may not fall into the definition of electronic monument since there is no permanent monument at the site, I still ran with the idea. Perhaps 2 large digital screens should be set up at the gates of the Superfund site, one perhaps showing the ongoing production of utility poles around the world, the amount of cables and distance traveling those poles, and, to tie to the historic causes Ulmer traces it all the way back to, the current trade or production of black pepper. On an adjacent screen, a statistic should show the current contamination of the groundwater due to the Superfund site, the countdown of time it will take to clean the site, and perhaps even the decreasing value of homes in the neighborhood should be displayed. Having the 2 screens next to each other would then connect the site to the reasons for the pine tar, us. The idea of realizing this as an abject sacrifice of both our current communication system and historical spice trade, and as not just some localized incident, really struck me. Accidents like this help us realize our part in the disaster, and helped us embody the disaster. But Ulmer didn't pick the disaster because of its ties to an electronic monument. He chose the Superfund site because of his own experience with it. He goes on to reference that each of us have our own disasters, and he states this by reference of Pandora. Later he uses the same reference again, this time also mentioning Pandora's box. The story surrounding Pandora's box is that in Greek mythology, Pandora was given a large box or jar by Zeus and told not to open it. However, unable to help herself, Pandora opened the box and released all the evils of the world. Her one small action ended up having large consequences. Ulmer uses this reference in order to indicate that products come with a free gift, the word gift, of course, being ironic. It is the product of an action. Ulmer follows this thought by identifying this gift, this byproduct, this unintended consequence of the process, as an additional 5th metaphysical cause to Aristotle's 4 original causes: material, formal, efficient, and final. The addition of this new cause is in fact a result of electricity. This gift cause is important because Ulmer later identifies that one of the purposes of an avatar is to include this new cause into the decision-making process. Avatars are responsible for focusing appeal from one of ethos to one of pathos. Accidents don't need to be explained because they explain us. They reveal what has been determined by us. Ulmer traces back in order to find the commodity, the object that was collectively desired. For the Superfund site, the object of desire was, of course, the black pepper. Our attraction to black pepper and attainment of it, similar to the gift of Pandora to Prometheus' brother, also resulted in the gift of environmental degradation, of the contamination of the water. Pandora's box. By tracing the event back to an object that was collectively desired allows for us to embody the disaster. We realize the effect of our own desires, our own pleasure and fascination by connecting the Superfund site to our taste buds. Allows for us to be affected. It shows the shift in appeal to pathos, to our responses. With this shift, a new axis is in the works, structuring how we make decisions. Instead of the axis of morality and literacy, focusing on right or wrong and true or false, the electorate axis is focused on pleasure and pain, or attraction and repulsion. It is focused on how it appeals to us through embodiment. This new gift dimension and the axis that follows with it causes the avatar to consider well-being as the decider of judgment and forces us to use our practical wisdom. This wisdom in the other apparatuses was pushed away, but in electricity, we use the accumulation of our experiences, of our wisdom, in order to conduct flash reasoning. However, flash reason only works within a system. The meaning of this gift poison is understood because of its placement within a larger system we are a part of. Our avatars have the ability to step back and to view in an instant the different facets of the system to make decisions. To better understand this, I really like the example of the painting. Ulmer gives an example of how Flash Reason operates when he describes that a blob of yellow on a piece of canvas is only a wipe of paint sticking to a surface, but once you step back, it can transform into a sun. The blob of paint went from becoming something yellow to being a sun. Avatars are able to make judgments by viewing something within the larger system. By being able to step back, this gift poison can be realized. Therefore, the accident sign allows for our avatars to counsel us on policy through the use of this new access of well-being. But accident signs can speak to people in different ways, which is why it requires a new apparatus, an apparatus that will bring together a group of people to create a collective emblem of wisdom. Ulmer states that this wisdom is to electricity what philosophy is to literacy. This wisdom will allow us to understand the accident sign in its entirety, including the gift poison, and to make judgments for well-being according to the new axis of attraction and repulsion. And Ulmer claims that social media is already training us to do this. Wisdom is being formed through social media. For me, I see this occurring with issues towards the environment. Yesterday was Earth Day. Google even had a doodle for the day that highlighted the importance of clean water. The Earth Day Network encouraged people to upload their pictures and videos of their experience in combat of climate change. Seeing images like this showing adults and children across the world battling climate change and trying to increase awareness appeals to me at least. It reveals not only the far-reaching effects of climate change, but also the far-reaching fight against it. Social media is then informing my own wisdom to make judgments for my well-being.